You're on a journey through the Bible to experience the epic story of God and to learn your part to play in the unfolding drama. Prepare for your role as you learn your history, your enemy, and your king. Welcome to the Bible Brief. Join us today as we see drunkenness lead to a lasting curse and a city built as a monument to humanity. A monument ending in confusion. You're listening to the Bible Brief. The Bible story is arching to unpleasant places. We've seen the story of humanity after the fall of man in the garden. We saw Cain murder Abel, and then we saw the birth of Seth, who replaced Abel as an offspring, through whom the eventual promised seed of the woman would come. Then we saw mankind spiral into sin until they were so bad that God reset the world with the great flood. Despite all this, however, God saved Noah and his family as a group that would restart humanity on the earth. God said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth." And the humans again set off to begin fulfilling God's mandate. It's here after the flood that we see a new promise made to Noah and all creation. And this promise happens just after Noah has made his sacrifice to honor God. God promises, in something that we'll call the Noahic covenant, that he will not flood the whole earth again in judgment. The worldwide flood was a one-time event, and he gives the world a sign to demonstrate that he won't do it again. God said, "This is the sign of the covenant I am making between me and you and every living creature with you, a covenant for all generations to come. I have set my rainbow in the clouds, and it will be a sign of the covenant between me and the earth. Whenever I form clouds over the earth and the rainbow appears in the clouds, I will remember my covenant between me and you and every living creature of every kind. Never again will the waters become a flood to destroy all life, and whenever the rainbow appears in the clouds, I will see it and remember the everlasting covenant between God and every living creature of every kind that is on the earth." God has made his promise, and now the rainbow is the constant reminder to God and man that God will not flood the whole earth again in judgment. It's soon after this promise that we see another echo of the beginning. These humans have been given a similar mandate, and now we'd see an echo involving a similar fact pattern as well. A garden, fruit, nakedness, and sin. It all starts when Noah plants a garden, a vineyard in fact. And in the course of time, Noah gets drunk on the wine that he's produced from the fruit of the vine. Apparently, he gets very drunk, so drunk that he ends up totally out and totally naked in his tent. And the plot thickens considerably when someone walks in to Noah's tent. Soon one of Noah's sons comes in and sees his father's nakedness, and instead of covering him up, he goes and tells his brothers about Noah's state. This was a wicked and ungodly thing to do. Remember, when Adam and Eve were naked, God covered them up with an animal skin. Noah's son, in contrast, decides to spread the news of Noah's nakedness in a shameful way. He tells his brothers, and these two brothers actually deal righteously with the awkward situation. They enter the tent, refusing to look on their father, and cover him up so that he's no longer exposed. Noah soon wakes up from his drunken stupor, and he quickly finds out what has transpired while he was incapacitated. While Noah certainly shouldn't have been in such a state, he yet hands out blessings and curses because of the actions of his children. He blesses his two sons who covered him up, but he curses his wicked son's son. He curses his grandson Canaan. He says, "Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be to his brothers." Now, the narrative itself doesn't supply details of Canaan's involvement with his father's sin surrounding Noah's nakedness. Perhaps Canaan had no involvement with his father's sin, or he was very involved. Perhaps Noah was simply cursing the son of the son who dishonored him in a sort of symmetry. In any case, we need to remember that the one who would carry the curse from here is Canaan, a curse invoked by Noah that God would cause to occur. And you should recognize Canaan's name. It's the land of Canaan that becomes the subject of a great promise of God. The curse on Canaan and his descendants is a subtext through the remainder of the Hebrew Bible. We haven't heard the last from the Canaanites. So after this episode of blessing and cursing upon this nakedness event of Noah, we end up in a similar place as before the flood. We see all of Noah's offspring begin to repopulate the earth, and generation after generation passes, until many years later, we come to a significant event involving a city, a tower, and a language. Now the whole world had one language and a common form of speech. And as people journeyed eastward, they found a plain in the land of Shinar and settled there. And they said to one another, "Come, let us make bricks and bake them thoroughly." So they used brick instead of stone, and tar instead of mortar. "Come," they said, "let us build for ourselves a city with a tower that reaches to the heavens, that we may make a name for ourselves and not be scattered over the face of all the earth." These people in the land of Shinar are interested in honoring themselves instead of God. They're building a monument to human achievement, and they're disobeying God by not filling the earth, which was part of God's mandate from the beginning. Remember, God had said, "Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth." But instead they're trying to concentrate in a particular place to avoid being scattered across the earth. This development doesn't escape God's notice. Then the Lord came down to see the city and the tower that the sons of men were building. And the Lord said, "If they have begun to do this as one people speaking the same language, then nothing they devise will be beyond them. Come, let us go down and confuse their language, so that they will not understand one another's speech." So the Lord scattered them from there over the face of all the earth, and they stopped building the city. That is why it is called Babel, for there the Lord confused the language of the whole world. And from that place the Lord scattered them over the face of all the earth. This narrative introduces a city that we'll come to know very well over the course of the Bible. Sometimes this city is called Babel, but usually in the Bible it's called Babylon. And we should note a few things about this city. First, the city is a place of human achievement and human uplifting. You might call it the first city celebrating secularism and human power. We see the humans desiring greatness and having the ability to get a measure of it. Second, in this narrative we get a view of the city from heaven. God sees that these people's plans will succeed in some measure, but he knows that the result won't be good. Human attempts at grasping what appears good, whether it's the fruit of the tree in the garden or building a city to unify humanity, these things always in the end produce bad outcomes. And bad outcomes are the result of missing the true good that God provides as a gift. We humans tend to think that God is holding out on us, tending to be blind to all the ways that God has provided for us and wants us to walk with him in his provision. These tower builders were blind in this way. Finally, God saw the disobedience of the people. He saw the pride of the people who wanted to make a name for themselves, and he saw the atheism of the people wanting to honor themselves and exclude God. So God judges this endeavor. While the people desired a unified utopia without God, instead God scatters them, differentiates their languages, and causes them to abandon their project. Babylon, the proud, disobedient, atheistic, humanistic city, has been humbled. But we'll see it pop up again later in the story. Just as we need to remember Canaan, so also we need to remember Babylon. So far, we've talked about God's mandate, his prohibition, and his order that was completely inverted in the account of the fall of mankind. In the post-fall world, we now see mankind with new qualities. We see consequences for the man and the woman. We see the spiritual and physical death penalty in full force. And we see the corruption of sin that pollutes the people repeatedly in the story. We've seen nakedness, murder, deceit, blessing and curses. And finally, to cap it off, we see humanity trying to build a monument to themselves. Outside of the garden, mankind is struggling. The struggle involves rejection of God's authority, rejection of God's provision, rejection of God's direction, and even rejection of God's existence. Yet along the way, we do see a few people who aren't perfect, but the Bible says that they walked with God. People like Abel, who who was murdered by his brother for his righteous sacrifice. Or Noah, who is described as righteous as he walked with God. These people seemed to get it. They understood that it was simply walking with God and doing His will that offered rest from the confusion of identity crisis. It was being near to God that set things right in their lives. But these few people are the exception and not the rule. The rule is the city of Babylon, which fittingly in the original Hebrew means something we've seen over and over again in the Bible so far. After all, Babylon means confusion. Join us next time as the plan of God is further revealed. We meet Abraham and we see that even when someone walks with God, it doesn't mean that they don't stumble. We'll see this man of faith who's granted righteousness by God despite his many failings. And we'll see with Abraham that God uses imperfect people to establish His perfect plan.
For Bible readings, reflection questions, and quizzes, don't miss the Bible Brief app. Available on iOS and Android so you can go deeper into the story. The Bible Brief is a project of the Bible Literacy Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to helping you learn the Bible. Give to support the Bible Brief by visiting BibleBrief.org or tap the Give link in the show notes. Thank you for supporting the Bible Literacy Foundation.